Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter. I am your college football senior writer on SI and the host of the Michigan State Spartans Insider Podcast. Remember, you can get your best Michigan State coverage when you go to SpartanNation.com. SpartanNation.com is where you go to get the absolute best Michigan State coverage anywhere on the web. Proud to bring back for close to 20 years. It's actually our 17th Spartan Nation writer emeritus. He is a Spartan graduate. He's a decorated media member and now a highly successful attorney in the Atlanta Buckhead area. The great Jonathan Shop back for our 17th year. John, the game just concluded. It's 42-40 Michigan State double overtime win. And to me, here is the story of the game. Last year, we prefaced the season by saying if Jonathan Smith could get this team to a bowl game, it would be one of the best coaching jobs in Michigan State history because Mel Tucker did not leave the cupboards bare. He ripped them out and used them for kindling. This year, though, still a very young team, but tonight we saw them growing up. This is a game they would have lost last year at home or away. You saw Aiden Chiles, I think, make some much better decision making. Still a very young team. Still, we're not fooling ourselves. They're not a Big Ten contender, but this is a much improved football team that's growing up.
Yeah, it is. And it does start with Chiles. It does start there. A combination of things tonight where you saw some progress, you saw some developing maturity, and then there's still a whole lot of stuff that he's got to work on, including not getting hit as much, learning how to slide. But really, a lot was in the balance there. It felt like a lot was in the balance, not only for Chiles, but for Jonathan Smith as well. He's going up against an NFL coach, and let's just be honest, Bill O'Brien's going to outcoach most people he goes against today, and he probably outcoached Michigan State just to have a chance. And by the way, he's got himself a future NFL quarterback as well. But this was Chiles' night, Chiles' stage. He made the plays when they had to be made. And we talked last year about the roller coaster ride. There's no way to get from basically starting out as a freshman to where Aiden Chiles wants to go without taking that roller coaster ride. Folks, there's no way. It really doesn't matter who you are in the history of the sport. You're going to take that ride. The ride is getting a little smoother now. It's getting a little more predictable, and there's still a lot of good stuff to come. This is kind of the starting point for what becomes of Aiden Chiles' tenure at Michigan State, and is a really important win for Jonathan Smith as this team tries to begin to stack and really get themselves set up for the bulk of that schedule, and importantly, both of those Los Angeles schools.
And here's the other thing, John, I think people need to remember and put into their thinking process is he's 19 years old. I mean, he's only 19. This is a kid, and he's in his second year of starting. And so people need to remember that. It's like last week when people talked about, oh, Arch Manning sucks. He'll never be any good. Well, there were people after Peyton Manning's first year that said trade him if you can get anything for him, cut him. They wanted a quarterback in the next draft. People want to rush the process, but and I hate to sound like Saban, but there is a level of maturity, whether it's being an attorney or a journalism. I think we're both better at what we do now than when we started, and the kid's 19 years old.
That is a big point because there should be no worry about him going to the NFL, but he's too young to even consider that. I hope Bill O'Brien gets asked about that because that really is the extra magic that Chiles has, is that he is so young. He's not 20 or 21. And listen, make no mistake, the quarterback they went up against, I know from his high school time here in Georgia, he looks a little bit like Drew Brees. He looks like a guy that's going to be on an NFL team, if not to be a starter someday. He's got that look already. So you're seeing a guy that's a little further ahead, and maybe a little bit older. But you've got to keep in mind, like we talked about, the rough part of the roller coaster has ended. This is really part of a second phase. What Chiles does from here, I would be excited about. He took too many hits last week. He took too many hits this week and was hit too much this week. He had some trajectory issues with some balls, but then you saw him throw some really good ones. And the biggest thing to take up is when we talk about the momentum at the college level, that snowball gets bigger, whether it's a good snowball or a bad ball. They go a little further, the momentum matters more. There's more momentum in a college football season from game one to the last of the year, or even halfway through, than you see at the pro level. So the point is, the fact that it ended that way and they won in overtime and Chiles throws those balls, it's going to prove to be a little bit bigger factor with what happens the rest of the year than you might think it would as we sit here right now.
Great. 4 quick questions. Number one, let's look at special teams. I thought I give them an absolute B plus to an A minus. I thought special teams were excellent tonight.
Well, the big deal, of course, was the turnover. The turnover is a big deal. But when you're looking at the kicking game, how about the freshman kicker coming out there 50 yards? And what I'm thinking is,
And some
just make good
returns.
contact. Yeah, I'm thinking just make good contact. The kid makes good contact. The rest take care of itself. He didn't overswing and Mallard duck hook the thing. He didn't hold off and block it to the right. Really good sign. And when you're talking about the punter Eckley, somewhere Bryce Behringer is going to find out what happened and he's going to smile and say, aha, this lineage is continuing. Kicking is a very big deal at Michigan State. For young folks out there that don't realize it, both of the kicking trophies in the Big Ten have Michigan State players' names on them, and they probably could just have Michigan State player names on them. Kicking is a big deal at Michigan State. The kicking game suddenly looks very solid. That is a huge deal for a team that needs everything they can get to try to get as many wins as they can. It's not like they're good enough to survive less than special teams like some of the latter D'Antonio teams thought that they were. This one's got to be good kicking the ball, and they've got something going.
All right, let's turn now over to the offense, where again, we've already talked about Chiles. I loved watching him grow up. The thing I didn't like tonight, though, John, was seems like they were sitting around waiting for one player to make plays. They've got to utilize their roster. They went out, they got all these wide receivers, the tight ends, they got these players to complement what they have. I want to see more of the Michigan State Spartans expanding that usage and getting more guys involved in the offense.
We do. We all do. And they're going to need to. But look, Nick Marsh looks like a guy headed to the NFL sooner than later. He looks significantly bigger than he was. Everyone sees that. But you make the really big point. And to their credit, how about the 2 balls for touchdowns that Chiles threw, kind of slipping away there in the end zone to 2 big guys. Manusis, however you pronounce his name, looks like a guy that can play. Velling is not near whatever he was advertised to be yet or what he may be. But as this thing gets going and as soon as next week, they've got to find the way to spread it around a little bit more. We have some perspective on this. We've been around Michigan State long enough to see when you can see this developing. It looks right now, if there's not a really good coaching effort and really good on-field decision-making by Chiles, he's going to get too reliant on Marsh and everything's going to look at Marsh, and that's going to stall the offense. The more he can bring along a couple other guys, the better. And to their credit, some of these transfer portal guys have looked better than you would have thought they would have been on paper when you're trying to project how does somebody come from that school and end up playing in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of talent there. I just want to see more. And quite frankly, I think it makes Marsh better the more people you get involved because they can't key in on him. All right, let's turn to the defense, where obviously they're very young. It's not like they're super deep, but I like that they were creative. They were ripping out the balls. They were trying to get some turnovers. Again, was I overwhelmed? No. Was I a little bit underwhelmed? No. But it was exactly what I thought. I want them to surprise me a little bit. I want to see them take a step the way I saw that that offense take a step. I now want to see them take a little bit of a more dominating role.
Well, they gave up a lot of passing yards, but mark it down. This is going to be one of the top quarterbacks Michigan State faces this
100%
year.
agree.
And that guy is going to the NFL at some point. He's going to be an NFL quarterback. Now, part of that is, and we're going to talk a little bit about Bill O'Brien because of the advantage of coaching at that level. He put that quarterback in a position to get rid of the ball such a way that there really wasn't much of a pass rush at all. Yeah, brilliant. And so that's going to be an issue for Michigan State until they can show that they can get home or otherwise disrupt. You may see some really short drops and the ball coming out really quickly. They give up a lot of passing yards, but I don't think it's as simple as, it's just the guys covering them. I think it has to do with the fact that they couldn't get to the quarterback very well. Combination of O'Brien and a quarterback at that level We're not necessarily going to see that next week, but when you got to line up to go out to Southern Cal, you should see really high level play, coaching, athleticism, maybe not at Bill O'Brien level. You could have a debate about Lincoln Riley and Bill O'Brien, but it's going to be right there. So I'm with you. You got to stay healthy. Jordan Hall is too key to the whole operation to get hurt. And there's a little bit of confusion, especially in that one touchdown. We don't really know what happened there. Some of that stuff needs to be ironed out. So next week's a chance for them to iron some of that stuff out, make sure they're healthy, because the real deal is going to start with Southern Cal.
Let's turn our attention now to next week, where Michigan State, 3:30 Eastern kickoff, taking on Youngstown State. This is a formidable opponent. They should win it. We're not pretending like they're Boston College, because they're not. And I think this is an opportunity now in this game. I think Spartan fans are very smart. They're not stupid. They know this isn't a Big Ten championship team, but they want to see, like they saw tonight and like they saw last week, the team continues to grow. Give them red meat of hope for the future. This is a great opportunity. It's a lesser opponent, but it's still going to be a very good opponent. So it's a legitimate fight, but I think they want to see this team address some of the things we talked about tonight and then move to 3-0.
That's what they're looking for. And some of us here sometimes think that game 2 to game 3 is when you see the biggest jump. It kind of looks like that's on a tee for me here this year, because you're going against Youngstown, which isn't a nobody opponent, but it's certainly not as difficult as Boston College or as difficult as Southern Cal. So what do they need to do? Clean some things up, stop turning the ball over, and focus in. You can tell what Jim Halchick and company are doing. They're trying to get their playing group together for the offensive line. That really is key. There's a couple mistakes today, a couple penalties, a couple of things for them to evaluate. You're looking for a clean looking game next week. You're looking for nobody to get hurt. And if the opportunity presents itself, you're looking for guys 60 plus into the roster getting out there. I mean, you're talking about a whole lot of guys hoping to play. First things first, though. Play clean, take care of business, and be healthy. If they do that, Michigan State will be in about as good a position as they could be when they get ready to go to Southern Cal and start the next serious stretch run of the season.
Yeah, and I'm going to disagree with you on one thing. I want to see 70 to 75 guys play, not 60s. I want to see them get into that 70s number, because that means they came in, they took care of business. Get Aiden Chiles out of there and get your backup some more reps. All right, everybody. Michigan State improves to 2-0 with a 42-40 double overtime win over Boston College. Looking ahead now to next week with Youngstown State, which should be a really good matchup and an opportunity for the Spartans to continue to show their fans the maturation of a very young team. I'm Hondo Carpenter. That's Jonathan Shop. We'll see you next week.